Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. Before we jump into the good stuff, I want to quickly introduce myself. I'm Sydney. I'm a marketing manager here at Offstreet, and I've been part of the team for just over 3 years now, with most of my time spent hand in hand working with private operators. So it's nice to see some familiar names signed up and joining as an attendee right now. Over the next hour, we're going to dive into how parking operators can transform residential parking with specific tools that eliminate paper passes, manual tracking, and other processes that can cause headaches. And most importantly, you'll get to see firsthand how we can register visitors at a residential location and how it can happen in just seconds with no app download and no friction. Our goal is that you walk away with some practical takeaways, not just ideas, but things that you can apply right away. So whether you're currently managing residential locations or you're preparing for future opportunities, you'll leave more confident with your plans. We can kick things off with our experts who are setting up these locations in Offstreet every single day. So help me welcome Danny and Kelvin. Danny, she truly goes the extra mile to make sure every customer feels supported and understood. And she's here today doing just that. She's sharing some of her best tips and insights to help make your parking operations run even smoother. And Kelvin, well, this is his first webinar, so make sure you cheer him on. But his expertise lies in building seamless, collaborative experiences for parking operators and their clients. He's passionate about helping teams simplify their process and uncover opportunities to improve efficiency. So let's give them a virtual round of applause. And we can get started now, but I want to get started with just one fun, quick question. Danny and Kelvin, what is the wildest way you've seen resident or visitor parking managed at a residential location?
Based on recent experience, the tried and true paper sign-up sheet in the front there.
Thanks for the warm welcome, Sid. I've definitely seen a few creative ways, but I think my favorite would probably be the Google form sign up.
Yeah, I have definitely seen those too, and those are some wild ways, in my opinion, to manage parking. I think the scariest one I've seen is just not enforcing the law at all. And even though Halloween's coming up, I don't want the parking scaries. So let's get away with that and get into the real questions. Danny, I'm going to start with you. What are some of the most common questions you get from customers about residential parking, and do you have a solution for them?
Yes, you bet. Exactly why we're here, Sid. So I think that we typically see questions that revolve around three main themes. So that is typically what the guest journey is, misuse prevention, and then flexibility. So, first off, people are often asking how the guest would actually register, and then they're usually pleasantly surprised and delighted about how easy it actually is. So, guests can scan a QR code, enter in their license plate, enter in a unique registration code, and then they are done. No app or account required with it. Very straightforward. Second, the property managers are often concerned about how they can prevent residents from abusing their visitor parking stalls. I think everybody wants those prime parking stalls, and we really can't blame them, especially in Canada, but we just can't be having that. So that's where features like our deny list do come in handy. With this, we can actually restrict the residents from using their visitor codes for their own vehicles. This gives operators a lot of control without needing to actually micromanage every single request that comes through. I don't think anybody here really has time to be doing that. And then third, we also get questions about flexibility. So for example, how long can a guest park? Whether this be a certain number of sessions in a month or a certain number of hours in a month, the answer is yes. Our rules engine lets you customize all of that so the setup can actually match your property needs perfectly.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I know with the cold winters in Canada, I definitely try get the coldest spot. I know I have definitely sat in my car for a couple minutes before pulling into a parking stall, just hoping that one closer pops up. So I get that. With those conversations you're having, what are the biggest headaches you see operators facing with the resident and visitor parking today?
Yes, definitely, definitely a lot of headaches when it comes to headaches and lots of headaches when it comes to residential parking. I think one of the biggest contributors to that is the residents actually following any of the parking rules. So a lot of the residential buildings that we work with or did work with do work with, but did do, wow, excuse me, still relied on the honor system or other outdated ways of management. And then the reality of that is that it's just not an effective way to be managing complex lots. So with that, a lot of headaches are coming from that. One of the main issues here on top of resident compliance is actually a strong and sturdy way of keeping track of those parking rules. As mentioned, they can get very complex. I think I'm obviously preaching to the choir on that one, but it can take up a lot of admin work to keep everything straight. And many operators just end up creating makeshift solutions that actually end up taking more time out of their day. It ends up being very messy and overwhelming for both the residents who have to do the sign up, as well as the private operator who has to upkeep it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the key word for today is going to be headache, and hopefully we can alleviate that. And even I'm getting one thinking about trying to manage all of the rules and limits just in a manual process. So that's where the digital solution comes in. So Kelvin, I know you are having lots of the same conversations Danny is with your clients. And so I wanted to ask you, why do you think these problems keep coming up and what happens if they aren't solved?
Sometimes residential location is just not aware of a possible solution out there. Visitor parking is an issue, but not a pressing one. However, this can cause headaches definitely for tenants, guests. This gives guests anxiety on whether they'll get to receive a ticket or find a spot available when they're visiting friends and family. Sometimes a visitor lot can be a free for all.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So do you think Offstreet could help?
Of course, that's what we're here for.
Perfect. Yeah, I definitely agree. Offstreet has a great solution. I've seen many successful use cases where bringing in a digital solution has changed everything, not only for you guys as operators, but for the residents and for their visitors. And it just makes everything a little bit more simple for everybody. So with that, and talking about, the residents, do you find residents adapting to this new process to be an issue, Kelvin?
With any new implementation, there's definitely a teething period. It's to be expected. But we've rolled out many, and the experience so far from guests and tenants have been very positive. And we're always looking for feedback to make it better. As Danny mentioned, we have a few things we can have make it very seamless, like our QR code, web portal registrations. Guests can register in seconds. Our pre-registration instructions, confirmation, and emails. This removes many of the worries and provide the best parking experience.
Yeah, I agree with you. Some people can just be hesitant to change and not, want to accept it. But once they do and they see how, easier the new process is, they'll be very happy with it. And we've definitely seen that in the past. So, Danny, now I want to get just kind of into the weeds a little bit about residential parking. How do you see operators currently handling visitor parking before they do switch to off-street?
Great question. I think we did a good quick overview about this at the beginning of the webinar, but to dive a little bit more into the weeds, I think it really depends on the operator and where they are located, but we do see quite a few common themes. So as Kelvin mentioned, people are still using paper permits. That takes a lot of printing, a lot of emails back and forth. And honestly, I don't think anybody here has time to be sending more emails than what we already are. Others are using spreadsheets, and some of those can look a little bit scary, and that's even coming from a non-finance gal. I've definitely made a few of my own scary spreadsheets in the past. Um, we've even seen private operators get pretty creative with Google Forms to collect guest information. At the end of the day, again, these are all makeshift solutions. They take a ton of admin time and energy. And then even with all of that effort, operators do still end up facing the exact same issues with misuse and frustration. So Offstreet does a great job at taking all of the chaos and turning it into a simple automated process that can work for any residential building.
Thank you for sharing that. So with that, managing residential visitor parking, we do have something to share with you. Danny, would you be able to walk us through what a typical visitor parking setup looks like in Off-Street?
Okay, awesome. So what we're looking at right now is the Offstreet portal. I'm sure quite a few of the folks here are familiar with it, but just in case you aren't, We can navigate to this portal a few different ways, whether that be through a lookup link, a URL, a QR code, or a tablet. But let me kind of set the stage here for one way that this could potentially work. The resident themselves could have the URL saved on their phone, and they have a visitor coming over. They would go ahead and click on the link here, be brought over to the portal, and they would ask their guest what their license plate number is. Once they have their guest license plate number, they would literally just enter it in here, select the state or province that the license plate is from, select next, and then here's where they are given a code from their property manager that is unique to their own unit building here, and then they would select park. From there, they could send themselves a text message reminder, expiry reminder, or send themselves an email expiry reminder and confirmation receipt that's sent out 15 minutes before their session expires just to give them the warning. So very simple, straightforward. From this point, their license plate is automatically sent over to enforcement within seconds. So it's a very quick, streamlined process.
Thank you for that, Danny. I see some reactions coming in, a couple hearts. So obviously we know the solution's loved and it definitely looks simple and very customizable. So that's amazing. Now we know there's also residents. I mean, it is in the name residential parking. So Kelvin, could you just share with us quickly how Offstreet could be used for resident permits?
Of course, residential permits is pretty straightforward to add in Offstreet. With digital permits and a few easy steps, we can upload individual, multiple, or even hundreds from a spreadsheet. We can even give tenants the ability to add and manage their own permits in Offstreet. This removes a lot of the administrative burden from the property management team and even the operator team.
Thanks, Calvin. Now that we've seen resident and visitor parking, could you just share with us how enforcement ties in and how that would reduce friction for operators?
Especially, of course, yeah. So once their permits are in Offstreet, with your enforcement team, you'll be able to scan the lots, verify which license plate should be valid or have valid sessions, allows your team to know who's authorized to be there. So streamline enforcement without no physical permits. We all have that story where there's a vehicle that keeps using visitor stalls. Well, with Offstreet and your LPR system, you'll be able to know who needs that citation. And with Offstreet, you and your team will be able to capture the full value of your locations.
That's awesome. And I do want to mention, we do have integrations with over 20 plus enforcement companies. So if you are interested in learning more about who we integrate with, you can reach out to your account manager or you can reach out to myself. Now, Danny, we do know lots of properties, they're not at a residential location. It's not just the residents and the visitors they're looking at. There might be a restaurant or a different type of tenant using the same lot. Is there a way that Offstreet could accommodate that?
You bet. That's a great question and something that we see quite often. Many properties do have multiple tenants sharing the exact same lot. So that means it can get pretty tricky to manage all of the multiple rules and all of the different parking groups. So with Offstreet, each tenant and parking group can actually have their own unique QR code or lookup link, and each of those can have their own parking rules tied to them. So that means that visitors or residents are automatically following the rules that are designated to them. So that means that there is no mix-ups, and then most importantly, there's no manual and tedious tracking with it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That sounds very like a very organized solution and something to keep everybody kind of intact with their rules. Okay, we're at our final two questions of the day, and then we'll get into the Q&A. Last question for you, Kelvin. How quickly could a property get started with residential parking in Offstreet?
Good question. From start to finish, with integration built, we can set up a location within Offstreet fairly quickly. I've seen it sometimes less than a week. Of course, depending on the integration setup, we can have the visitor parking and the residential permits in Offstreet ready to go.
Wow, that is very quickly. Okay, and last question of the day. Danny, if someone watching today is still on the fence, what is one thing you'd tell them about trying Offstreet for a residential parking location?
This is the hardest question of the day because you're making me keep it to one. So I'll do my best to keep it short. But if you're still on the fence about Offstreet, I would say this. It takes the frustration out of residential parking for residents, property managers, and the private operator. We have seen it work in real time. Our team is also here to support you and make sure that you have all of the resources needed to successfully launch and upkeep the simplified parking journey.
That's great. Yeah. I do want to mention again, just like you did, the team is always here to help with whatever your needs are. You would have a dedicated account manager. Right now, you see Danny and Kelvin, two of our account managers. So they would be there with you every step of the way. But thank you so much, Danny and Kelvin, for answering my hard-hitting questions. I think it's time we get into some of the Q&A and open the floor to any questions for everybody here. So if you do have a question, pop it in the Q&A feature and we will answer that. But it looks like we had a couple coming in, so I'm going to answer those or ask you those quickly. Let me see. I know there was one. Can the system be used to reserve a parking stall at a later date?
You bet. So we can have the rules set whether you'd like always to have an immediate start time where they have to be on site to create that registration. We can also have it set so that folks can pre-register for a spot as well.
Perfect. Okay, we have another one here. My residential location allows each unit 4-hour parking sessions per month. Is that something that Offstreet could accommodate?
Calvin, I'll just steal this one again while my mute is off. Well, I have the floor. That's exactly how we would handle a lot of our visitor parking. I love to think of each of those unique codes like a punch pass. So you would be able to have your pass preset with all of those sessions in a month. As they're used, they would fall off, and the resident would be able to keep track of how many times that code has been used.
Perfect, thank you. If our building brings in contractors, cleaners, or home care workers, is there a way we could set them all up with a parking option? I do know that we can handle this, and there's a couple different ways. So, Danny or Kelvin, if you want to walk through that.
Yeah, definitely. We can have them have their own rules, especially for contractors or healthcare workers coming in, and we can add codes to make sure they're the only ones using it. So yeah, we have many ways to implement this in Offstreet, so you will have no worries.
Perfect. Okay, it looks like we have another question. If we have an event room and a resident wants to rent it out and have guests over, is there a way all their guests could register for a specific time?
Yeah, I can take this one as well. Absolutely. With Offstreet, we have our new events feature as well. A lot of our customers are using it. It works really well with residential customers. So if someone has a birthday for Saturday and they're only available from 5 to 8, they can set that up, send that pre-registration instruction to them, even give them QR codes and have them sign up. No worries. And once they're done, you will know who will be registered for those times.
Perfect. And then we have another one coming in. Can we set up specific amount of hours to each unit that could be used in a month? For example, can we set up 60 hours to that specific unit?
Yes, we can adjust the amount of uses that each unit would get for their code. It's a simple like plus or minus that we would do on the dashboard for depending on what month and which unit, how many codes that they are allowed to use.
Perfect. And then we have another question coming in. Is there the potential for white labeling?
You bet. So when I shared my screen there, you would have seen like the Offstreet dashboard and the Offstreet colors. All of that can be customized and white labeled to your branding. So your logo, your colors, make it look exactly like it's coming from your brand.
Perfect. And then we have a question in the chat from Ida. Can you repeat the residential management demo? I hopped in late for actual residents, not visitor parking. And so we didn't share an actual screen demo of the resident parking. And so I will reach out to you, Ida, to kind of share you that solution. But Kelvin, if you want to just hop over how it works for that resident parking, that would be great.
Yeah, so once in the Offstreet, we'll just be able to add those permits exactly in. You can add singular, multiple, or even upload from a spreadsheet. So at one time, we'll be able to have them in there. And once they're in, they're good to go. We can even do a demo later. We'll be able to walk you through it for sure.
Okay, thank you for that. And then we have a question from Brian. Is there a license rate change with this expanded utility of the program?
Everything is included with that, including residential parking. You would be able to add this on to what you're currently doing in the exact same SaaS fee that you're already paying.
That makes sense. Yes.
Hopefully, I'm understanding that properly.
Yes, he says perfect.
Awesome.
Okay, we got
Great,
that
Brian.
one. Thank you, Brian. We just have another question come in. Is Offstreet compatible with all enforcement integration partners? Is there always a charge for new integrations providing they play nice? I can answer this one. We do have 20 plus enforcement integration partners already. If you're interested, we can share a list with you of all of them. If there is a new integration that's needed, our team's always open to building new integrations. So if they play nice, we love to play nice. So we're always happy to hop on a call if that's something that's needed. And we can always chat further. But I see that you want the list of integrations, so I'll make sure to send that over to you. I don't think we have any other questions come in. I know there were a couple questions that were asked earlier on, and I believe they were answered, but I do want to remind everybody we will be sending out a recording. And so I'll send you an email with the recording, and you can see all of this later on and have it at your access. But if you do want to hop on a call with myself or your account managers, we can do so. I see one more question typed in. If there's a typo registering a guest, what would be the advice so they won't lose their code credits? Danny, Kelvin?
This could be done a couple different ways, just thinking through it. Number one, if they need to adjust their license plate, so it's an actual valid license plate and a valid session, I'm assuming their code should still be used then at that point. So they could reach out to have their license plate changed. The other option is in the dashboard. That session can actually be voided. If a session is voided, their code usage will go right back into their bank. So it'd be like it was never actually used, kind of just depending on what we actually need the outcome to be in that situation.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Danny. We have another question that just came in. Is restricting a plate to register once on a location basis on the horizon? So I believe what this is asking is, can we restrict a plate to only register, once per, day, per week, per month, or just in general?
You bet. So on the location level, if everybody's using the same registration setting, we can already do it. If we do have multiple different registration settings, aka parking rules, that is on a feature request with our product team right now to be able to have that ability.
Perfect. Thank you. Got another question coming in. Does Offstreet offer granular reporting modules, or can you send me information about reporting scheduling for reconciliation? I can say yes, I will send you more information. We can also hop on a call to kind of go through all of this. But Danny, if you want to touch on our reporting solution a little bit.
You bet. Yeah. Awesome, Jeffrey. Our reporting solution is awesome. And we actually have just made a few more awesome. We've actually made a few more improvements on it over the last couple of months. So we have the ability to schedule reports now as well. So if you have the exact same report that you need to pull every day, week, or month, you can actually just schedule it so it'll show up in your inbox at 6 a.m. The day that you need it.
Perfect. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming through. And it looks like time is kind of running up. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to pop that up right now. I am sharing my contact information. Of course, if you don't currently work with Offstreet, you can reach out to me. But if you do, these are your account managers and you want to reach out to them with any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. There is a QR code on the screen. Feel free to scan it and download. It's just a residential parking guide that we have created, but I do want to mention we're happy to create any types of materials like this. So if you want use case specific guides or you need any materials like this to go out to your locations and show them kind of what Offstreet can do, or if you just want it specifically for your team, please reach out to your AMs or myself and we'll get you set up with some. I do want to give a huge shout out to Danny and Kelvin for everything they do behind the scenes to provide their clients with the best insights and experience with Offstreet, and of course for crushing yet another webinar. Last thing to mention, keep your eyes peeled for our next webinar, which will be next month, where we're going to chat all things hotel and event parking. But enjoy the rest of your day and have a good weekend, and we will see you later.